Today in our project we will be focusing on the Los Altos curfew. For those under 18 is 11 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Curfew laws restrict the rights of minors under the age of 18 to be outdoors or in public places during certain hours. There's no state curfew, but different cities and different regions regulate the curfew based on their choices.
The Mountain View website specifies that the main purpose behind the law was to protect youth from being victims of crimes and putting themselves in unnecessary danger at night.
Although the curfew was established to protect the minors, both teenagers and parents agree that the curfew should be extended for purposes of convenience.
This law was established back in 1994, and many teens now believe that it's not necessary today.
Should we keep it, or should we just extend it?
I think that the curfew is a little bit too early. It's not like I'm disrupting anything at night, so I don't think it should be at 11.
I personally don't think Los Altos needs a curfew. I don't think there is enough problems, crime, issues with the kids that are under the age of 18 to warrant having an 11 o'clock curfew.
It should be known that the curfew actually is not listened to, and most people do not do not go home at 11 because Los Altos says they can't stay out past 11.
I would have to say, generally today, the generation of students at Los Altos High School and that live in this area, which would include St. Francis and Mountain View and Bellarmine, the different students, they all follow the laws. They are generally across the board good kids and follow the curfew and do what they need to do to be home by 11. But 5 years ago, when my other son was going through the high school, it was kind of across the board a different story. The boys and girls would all try to stay out as late as they could, and they fairly just ignored the curfew, and there was a group of them that just liked to push the limits. Personally, I think that curfew doesn't make much difference. I'm sorry to say. I think the curfew itself, what's going to happen if you get pulled over by the police after curfew? They're going to call me and say you need to come pick up your child. Nothing really happens. It's not a big there's not a big penalty for it, so it basically falls on the parent that we didn't get our child home by 11. Maybe if they want it to stand, they would give a higher punishment like community service.
Like other cities, a lot goes on like after 11 o'clock at night, and I think it's way too early to shut everything down and make people off the streets at that time. And it's making businesses like pizza places and movie theaters and all that, ice cream shops lose a lot of customers because they're not open and they're not tailored to young people.
So Sarah, how does the curfew affect downtown Los Altos?
We've definitely noticed a decline in our sales because of it. There's nothing really going on in downtown Los Altos, and we noticed that kind of scares a lot of people off, and they assume that nothing's open, and so it's really quiet on weeknights and even Saturday nights and Sunday nights.
Who are your primary customers?
Well, our primary customers would have to be teenagers. Our largest clientele, usually they're at Mio after school, which is the prime time for them because they can't be out very late. And the bosses certainly feel the effect of the curfew. Like I mentioned before, there's definitely a large decline in sales. And we feel like a lot of it does have to do with the curfew in Los Altos.
People are still hungry for food after 11. It's not like, everyone goes to bed. A lot of people are still very hungry, and I think like it would be like a spot like could experiment like staying open like past 11 one night, and you'd see like a vast like increase in like the customers like coming in.
What our project comes down to is that the curfew in Los Altos should be extended because the teenagers in Los Altos will be able to make purchases and work past the curfew hours, which in the end will help businesses.
And also due to the fact that the crime rate in Los Altos is extremely low, the police choose to not really enforce it, and the law essentially becomes illegitimate because of the lack of enforcement.
Although many teens have opposed the curfew, there have been very few real attempts to extend the hours. Individuals who disagree with the curfew law can't just sit around and do nothing. We must sign petitions, voice our opinions in newspaper articles, and alert the general public about our discontentment with this issue.